Alright, so I've been doing a lot of testing now against Moonlord Master, which I believe is right now the most difficult boss in the game, unless you're doing the cheese tactic where you leave your base and shoot it from far away outside of the raid area. But right now, Dark Wisp doesn't work anymore, so we had to find a third skill that works. Thankfully, Beam Slicer and Hydro Slicer still work, so it's just that third skill, and it's also not super important since Beam Slicer and Hydro Slicer are the majority of the damage. But there are a couple of skills now that have their tracking changed, so just Dark Wisp doesn't work anymore, and a couple of those other homing skills don't work. The laser skills didn't work very well, so I settled on Torrential Blast right now. Might be something else that turns out better in the end, but right now Torrential Blast seems to be the one to use actually. But we're going to take a little bit of a look at the army later. So for the gear, I just like having the Plasma Cannon, the Charge Rifle, and then a Terra Prisma, so we're going to do the fight with two different setups here. We're gonna use the white gear and the legendary gear. And then I don't suggest you use the triple jump boots because these slicer attacks deal triple damage. So that's like your full health bar even with legendary gear being one shot with those attacks if you're up in the air. So probably swap that for like an attack pendant or a defense pendant or something like that. And then the party setup, either Felbat or Lavander is fine, but you really want one of those for the lifesteal effect. And then those 4 maxed out Gobfins as well as the V1 armor for that lifesteal. So then we have a look at the army here. It is this Orsurk army. I also tested quite a lot of different armies for this, but it is the Orsurk army doing very well, and I also suggest you use this one just because it's also great against that Hartalis raid and Hartalis Ultra. So it's a bit of both. There might be some other pal that works better, but in this test Orsurk actually did the best out of the like 6 or 7 armies I tested. So just doing the Serenity Legend, Musclehead Demon God build, with the Hydro Slicer, Beam Slicer, and then the Torrential Blast. Just does very good. Like, Orsurk is a pretty small pal, so anything bigger than Orsurk struggled against that area of effect. Like stuff like Bastigor, Neptilius, that were really good before, they got killed pretty quickly. And then you have this, like, extra little bit of damage on Beam Slicer is always nice. But Dark Pals were struggling a bit, like Libro and Ganglers, just clumping up underneath the boss. And then the Herbals, they survived quite a while, but the DPS was just a little bit lower. And you really want to win this fight quickly, as you're going to see once the fight actually starts here. So we're going to jump into the arena. And then one little trick I want to show here in the beginning is that the Lavander tended to die during the raid, and then you lose that lifesteal effect. So you can actually build stuff in this raid base. I tried a stone pit, that worked fine, just left the Lavander mining there, but then you lose a little bit of stone. So just a sandbag. Turn the combat off and just have your Felbat or Lavander sitting over there. 4 stars give you a lot of lifesteal. So you can see the Lavander in the bottom right there just going down. So Moonlord Master is one of the only raid bosses, or I think it's the only raid boss that actually attacks your party pal, or it might just get randomly area affected down. So you can still win if it dies late enough. It usually survives, but just leaving it back there is fine. It's not a huge DPS gain having it fighting next to you. Not worth it if it goes down, because the lifesteal, as you're gonna see now, is super important. So we're gonna start now. You can see the Gobfins to the left. We got the Lavander as well. And then the Orsurk build right there. Got the attack food on the Orsurks, some healing medicines, attack food on myself, healing medicine on myself as well. Start the fight. The multi-guided missile launcher is a decent option just to shoot here in the beginning, but you absolutely don't need it. I just think it's funny when they start hovering around the eye a little bit. And then you really need to prioritize dodging that huge beam attack. So I'd like to just walk away from the boss. But you don't want to go too far away, because then the Terra Prisma stops hitting. And I think you can see my lifesteal in the bottom left. I take a little bit of damage and it heals right back up. Because with this V1 armor, with that Lavander, you're healing at an incredible rate as long as you're dealing damage. And here it's a little bit of a preference thing, if you like to use the Plasma Cannon or the Charge Rifle. So the Plasma Cannon, I find, works very well for this. You shoot the 2 shots and then reload while the eyes are closed. And the Terra Prisma just does its thing. It's a little bit of an indicator as well. When all the damage numbers pop off with the Terra Prisma, that's when you can shoot as well. And you can see the eyes just going down very quickly here. Then the Charge Rifle, the Legendary Charge Rifle at least, has a little bit higher DPS, because it holds 10 bullets instead of the basic 6 bullets. So you can just shoot away here, and the fight is pretty much over. But you can also see that the Orsurks are going down here already, so it's just 1 minute into the fight, and the Orsurks are already losing quite a bit of health. So that's why I mentioned like it is very much a DPS race, which is why the survivability of Herbil not as important here as it is against Heartalis Ultra, because eventually all the base pals are just down, and you really want to kill the boss quickly, as you're gonna see when we do the white gear method just after this kill. But still, probably prioritize that beam. You didn't see it so much in this fight, you'll see it in the next fight, but you really need to dodge that first beam. And then Lavender just sitting there at the sandbags. It can still take a random shot or two, like it can get focused, but it usually survives there on the sandbags because it's just one hit or two. And then 2 Orsurks surviving, because the fight was very quick with all this legendary gear and all stuff like that. So we're gonna jump into the other fight now with just the white gear. So same setup here, just putting Lavender over there. Attack food on me, gonna give some defense food to Lavender and some healing potions, just because the fight is now gonna be a little bit longer. And now we're just using this white gear, got a green random Prisma as well. And still the triple jump boots just because. But you're probably better off, or you are very much better off swapping that for anything like an attack pendant or a defense pendant. Any one of them is fine really. And now my damage is going to be quite a bit lower, and you'll see prioritize rolling backwards and then move forwards, because you don't want to have the Prisma going out of range. If you go too far away, you lose the Prisma damage, and that's quite a lot of lifesteal lost. And now you can see that the fight is a lot slower. The Orsurks also randomly picked the left hand instead of the center eye. Makes a little bit of difference. It's actually a little bit better for the raid army, since you are the focus of that main eye instead. It just continuously beams you. So standing somewhere around here where I am right now, you got the Prisma doing damage, but you're not pulling that beam into all your Orsurks or whatever raid army you have. And you can see as well, like the beam slicers and hydro slicers do a ton of damage. They get that triple damage bonus. And then the torrential blast just kinda exists. You could have used like fireball, but they also missed quite a lot. Like there was no actual really good third option. There was just options that kinda worked. And then now that the Orsurks, or that we're using white DPS, you can see that the fight is gonna drag on a lot longer. The raid army is gonna go down quicker, and we're also gonna be life stealing a lot less. So if you pay a little bit of attention to the health bar in the bottom left there, at the end of the fight here, you're gonna see that it is a little bit of a struggle now, staying alive in this phase, because once the raid army dies, you start to get focused by all those like beam slicers from those fallen eyes. So right now the raid army is tanking a little bit still, they're alive, but as soon as they all go down, it becomes really challenging to stay alive here. A little bit better with legendary armor, or legendary weapons I mean, because of that lifesteal increase. And as well, like there's a pretty big difference I feel with the 6 shots on the charge rifle compared to the 10. You just spend more time reloading, and you get less lifesteal overall. So while you're reloading, just take the time to sort of keep track of those eyes, and you also want to have your sound on so you can hear when the beam slicers charge up against you. They're pretty loud. Gotta be ready to dodge those eyes. So whenever there's one going, gotta dodge that one. So prioritize dodging that one, and maybe the one that sends like 8 eyes towards you. But you can see I'm barely lifestealing enough, trying to dodge massively. Like it's very finicky with this white gear setup to get it down. So I really recommend like at least probably blue or purple rarity, just because you get the increased DPS as well as the increased lifesteal. So it's a bit of a, the more damage you have, the more survivable you are, the less time you spend alone without your Orsurks. It just really goes out of control quickly. And that's also why like the Herbil army didn't do that well, because they just don't do the same kind of DPS as Orsurks do before going down. It's like 4,500 attack there on the Orsurks. But that's it for this video. So that's my current best method for Moonlord Master without any sort of cheese, and thanks for watching.